Hello guys, it's Sam here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome back to navigating your ePortfolio for psychiatry trainees. Um, in this video, we are going to be looking specifically at personal development plans and how to set them up on your portfolio. Um, I hope the previous videos have been helpful and useful. If you have any questions, you can drop them in the comment section and I'll try my best to respond to them. If you haven't watched any of the previous videos on regarding this portfolio, I'd advise you take some time to watch them as this will be very relevant to you and very helpful. Okay. Now, as I said in my previous videos, for a personal development plan, this would be agreed on together with your clinical supervisor at the beginning of each placement. Okay. It's very important this is done early enough in the placement, as this would direct your course of achieving your competencies in a particular or specific placement. Now, before we go into the portfolio and how to set up your PDP, I'd like to give some general information around PDPs. I'll also drop a link in the comments section that would lead you to more information around PDPs on the Royal College of Psychiatry's website. Right, so each placement has a specific PDPs that can be achieved. Now, with the current curriculum that we are using, that was launched in August of 2022, the college has 9 broad HLOs or high learning outcomes, right? Now, you don't necessarily have to have a PDP for each of the HLOs, as some of them may not be relevant to your particular placement. However, it's advisable you cover as much as you can in each placement. Okay. Once you have identified your PDPs, you would need to talk about how you plan to achieve them by way of your activities. Okay, so we'll look at an example on the college website, and that would guide you in developing your own PDP when you meet your supervisor. In addition, you would have to evidence how you have achieved your higher learning outcomes or your PDPs. And this could be by way of your workplace-based assessment. So it could be your mini ACE, your ACE, your CBDs or your case-based discussions. It could be DOPS, it could be DONGs. Don't worry about the abbreviations, you'd find them on the college website. Okay, it could be a journal club presentation, a case presentation. It could be certificates, your reflections, your multi-source feedback or your 360 feedback. So quite a number of ways by which you can evidence achievement of your competencies. Okay, so let's go straight into an example from the college site of a placement-specific PDP. Following that, we'll go into the portfolio and I'll demonstrate how to set that up. Now, over here is an example by the Royal College of Psychiatrists of a placement-specific PDP. And on the portfolio online, you'd see this as PSPDP. Okay, so this is, say, for example, for someone who is in a general adult posting or a community mental health team, 6 months, and this is a CT1. Okay. Now, I talked about high-level outcomes or the HLOs, and there are key capabilities to be achieved. They've got 16 themes, which you would find on your portfolio, but as I mentioned, you've got 9 HLOs. Okay, so some of them are subdivided. Okay. So, for instance, for HLO 1, it is professional relationships as 1.1, 1.2, professional standards, HLO 2.1, so the requirement is that you be able to demonstrate advanced communication and interpersonal skills when engaging with patients, their families, carers of all ages, the wider community. So 2.1 is communication. Okay, 2.2, you're looking at your clinical skills. Okay, 2.2 clinical skills. 2.3 complexity and uncertainty. So it goes all the way down to HLO 9, which is undertaking research and critical appraisal. So I don't want to bore you with going through all the HLOs. Okay, this video is purposely to help you set up your PDPs. So I'll just demonstrate a few examples. I'll explain a few of these, and then we'll get into the portfolio to demonstrate that. So for instance, if you've selected HLO1, which is the key outcome here is for you to be able to demonstrate professional values and behaviors that are required of a medical doctor in psychiatry with reference to GMC, okay, good medical practice and core values for psychiatrists and other relevant faculty guidance. So under HLO1, you've got 1.1 professional relationship. So what is expected is that by the end of your training year or your placement, so this can be an ongoing um, competency. Okay, so the fact that you had this as a PDP in your first 6 months doesn't mean you can't have it in your second placement in CT1, because most of these HLOs are a continuum. Okay, so the expectation is that you'd be able to work collaboratively with patients, with families, their carers of all ages and colleagues, respecting their autonomy, diversity, and valuing their contribution. The other key capability here is to be able to understand, recognize, validate, and actively address systemic and structural inequalities, intersectionality, their impact on clinical outcomes for patients and carers of all ages, and working relationship with colleagues. Now, these are, when it comes to the key capabilities on the portfolio, you would be mapping your activities to them. Okay. So how you intend to achieve these key capabilities under this HLO falls under the planned activity. So here, this training stated that they would attend equality and diversity training and keep knowledge current. They also plan to demonstrate that in their patient reviews. They demonstrate respect, appreciation, curiosity about diversity, different ethnic groups, sexuality, social backgrounds. And they also want to engage with a great variety of patients with different backgrounds. So these are the intended activities to achieve this HLO 1.1 when it comes to professional relationship. Now, in terms of how to evidence this, the trainee says they're going to upload training certificates. They'll go through they'll have a mini ACE assessment of the clinical skills. They'll have an ACE mini part, which is a feedback form. They'll do a reflection and have a case-based discussion. Okay, so that's one example. Okay, so not to bore you, let's quickly go over to our portfolio and I'll show you how to set this up there. Okay, so I've already logged on to my portfolio. And like I said, I have this portfolio while I was in core training, so it might differ a little, slight difference from yours because you are starting afresh. Okay, so some of it I may not be able to create or demonstrate some of the things I talk about here, but I'm still hopeful it's gonna help you. Okay, so you click on the portfolio tab. There you are. So it comes up here. This is CT3. I have no PDPs at the moment. So to set up a PDP, you click on the PDP tab. And bear in mind, you've already created your training level folder, which is CT1. You've created your career entry. If you haven't seen that, please watch my previous videos and you know how to set that up. Okay. Now, because the last placement in training was in the perinatal community team, that has come up here. But if you set up your career entry, that would show in this drop down menu. Okay, so you can see all my placements, my 6 placements in core training. Okay, so assuming that perinatal community team, mental health services, you're hosting. Okay, so that comes up. Now you go onto new PSPDP item. Okay, to start creating your PDP. So you click on that tab, it opens a pro forma or a pop-up box. The pro forma comes up post activity or post objective. So you select post objective. Okay, the post, that is my career entry, which is perinatal, whatever you have as your first posting. Then the framework here, obviously, is called Psychiatry 2022. That's the curriculum. And then the HLO. So you click here on the drop down. Now it brings out all the HLOs been talking about, okay, up to HLO 9. So for example, for the previous example by the college regarding the PDP. We looked at the professional relationship. So I'll select professional relationship here and then create new activity. Okay. Again, as I said, this is because I've completed my training, but I'll also try and look for another PDP that is not already linked to this post. So bear the undertaking. So yes. So let's say an HLO here is to undertake a research and critical appraisal. Okay. So I select that, click on create new activity. So there you can see the post, framework, the theme, which is apply up to date knowledge of research methodology, critical appraisal, and best practice guidance to my clinical practice. The HLO is 9.1, undertaking research and critical appraisal. Under that, we've got the key capabilities 1, 2, 3, 4. So demonstrate knowledge of ethical frameworks, blah, blah, blah. Okay, critical appraisal, research, develop, and participate. So this will pre-populate. So the date agreed here would be the day you have your meeting with your clinical supervisor. Okay, so let's just say you're agreeing on your first day of your placement, right? I mean, you can ignore that. It's not a recommended drill. So over here in planned activity, you can type what you want, what you would be doing. So let's say undertaking research and critical appraisal. So let's say in your planned activities, you plan to you critically you plan to critically appraise a paper and present it at your local teaching. Okay. So that's one thing. One way you can. So it could be a journal, a paper, or a journal, okay, of relevance, and present at a local teaching. Okay. Um, Maybe what you want to do is maybe you want to complete an e-learning module on quality improvement. Okay. So these are examples of planned activities. Okay. And then the next bit is evidence. So how are you going to evidence this particular HLO journal, journal club presentation? Okay, so that's JCP. So that's a form that you can generate on your portfolio and send it to whoever would be chairing or would be assessing your presentation of a critical appraisal for them to complete it. I'll show you how to create a workplace-based assessment form. Okay, so that's it, and then you submit it. Right? So then that would. So this is how it appears. So let's go to HLO 9, and there we have it. Okay. So whenever you come to PDP on this tab, on the left side of the screen, as you can see, it brings up a summary of all the HLOs. So if you've created a PDP under any of these HLOs, it would, and you click on it, it will come up. So we just for what we just created, which was in the HLO 9, that is what we're seeing here. Okay. And then these are the planned activities as we typed in, and this evidence, certificate of completion of e-learning, all that. I hope that's helpful. So you do that for all the other HLOs or any other PDP you agree on with your supervisor. Okay. And like I said, this is something I'd already done in my CT3. I can show you a bit of that. Okay. So for HLO1, this is what I did. My planned activity, I said I was going to assess women in perinatal period. Have a sort of patient-centered, holistic clinical approach. Know that my planned activity is also to manage my time availability during working hours by keeping my work diary up to date. Okay. And how I plan to evidence this. So mini A's, reflections, mini parts. Okay. Now, what you can see here are activities and evidence that I have mapped to these key capabilities. Okay. I'll show you how this comes about. This is a summary of it. Once you link your evidence and your activities to the key capabilities, it pulls through to this particular um, part of the portfolio. Okay. The same thing if you go to my HLO2, again, same procedure. Okay, yeah, you can see my activities that I've mapped. Okay, as evidence to achieving that. I got something for HLO3, HLO4. I have something written down, 5, 6. For 6, I had nothing. So like I said, you don't need to have a PDP for each HLO. Okay, so it's placement specific. Okay, so don't worry about that. HLO7, I have something around safeguarding. Okay, HLO8, decided to do some teaching, medical students. Okay, so as part of my evidence, I said I was going to collect feedback forms, get certificates of involvement in teaching, and hopefully that will be reflected in my supervisor's report. There's also a form for teaching that is called assessment of teaching that can be completed by anybody in the medical education department or a consultant who's observed you teaching medical students. Okay, and then this is the one we created. Okay, I'm just going to delete that because it wasn't. And as you can see, because we haven't yet created any activities or evidence, we haven't mapped them to any of the key capabilities here. So you can see no activities mapped under each of the key capabilities under the HLO9, okay, as compared to, for instance, this one where you see this blue colored. So all these are forms, okay, these are evidence to demonstrate that I have achieved the key capabilities here under this particular one. Okay, you don't need to map to every key capability under a particular HLO. Okay, if you've got the evidence, fine. If you've not got it, that shouldn't be a problem. But just make sure that you complete your PDPs. If for whatever reason you could not complete a specific PDP in that placement, you should discuss that with your clinical supervisor. You can carry that over into your next placement if it is relevant. Now, a bit of advice here, just make sure your PDPs are smart. By that, I mean they are specific, they are measurable, okay, they are achievable, okay. It can be achieved within the time frame, okay, of your placement. Don't set yourself up to fail by having so many PDPs in a specific placement. Just make sure you've got just enough that you can achieve in that placement. Okay, your clinical supervisor would guide you in doing that. I hope that's been helpful when it comes to setting up your PDP. Another additional information I'd like to make you aware of is that once you create your PDP, so out of those HLOs, which are 9, if you say, for instance, created 6 PDPs under the HLO, so 6 HLOs. Now, when you click on this tab, portfolio, it will bring up your current training level. So, for example, minus the CT3 folder, you would find out that you've got active PDP. So over here, because I don't have any active PDPs, it's showing us no current PDP items. However, once you create yours, if you've created 5 or 6, whatever number, it would show here 9 PDP items. Okay, 8 PDP items, right? That's what's gonna happen. Now, the other thing that's worth noting is that once you complete your PDP for a particular placement, you are meant to click on complete, and this would then take the PDP, a completed PDP off the active PDPs. So if you had 6 and you've completed 5, you'd realize that you only have 1 PDP item left. I wish I could demonstrate how to complete this. It's because I've completed all of mine, so you cannot see it. Okay, so I managed to reopen one of my PDP items. So again, let's assume you've created one PDP item, which is now showing here. Okay, so I click on that PDP item. So this is it. Okay, This is what's left. Now, let's say I've achieved all the capabilities that are under this HLO, or I think I've got enough evidence to demonstrate that I've achieved it. Once you are done with it, okay, you come down here and click on complete. Okay, so as I explained to you earlier, if you've got 6 PDP items, once you complete one, it will now show us 5 on the dashboard. Okay, so let's assume I've completed it. I click on complete, right? Let's go back to my portfolio and I'll show you what I was talking about. So as you can see, because I've marked it as completed, I currently do not have any PDP items. So it's very important that at the end of every rotation, once you've achieved your PDP, you click on complete under each of the PDP items to remove that from this dashboard. If you don't do that, what happens is that it cumulatively um, increases. Okay, you keep on adding PDPs onto previous ones, which are no longer relevant. So assuming I did not mark it as complete, and then it will show it as one PDP. If I go to my next placement and I have 7 PDP items, it will bring up a total of 8 because it's including my previous PDP. Okay, I go on to my next, I get 5, it continues to add on. And then you realize that for some people, they've got 20 PDP items, which is actually not reflective of where the stage they are in, the facts on the ground. Okay, and this can affect your ARCP in the sense that then it makes it a bit cumbersome for the panel reviewing your portfolio to work through it. So it's very important that you go into the PDP and once it's done, you mark on complete, like I demonstrated there, to take it off your active PDPs. So at any point in time, you should have at, at most 6 or 7 PDPs. If you choose to go 9, that's fine, but you can't go above 9, okay, because you've only got 9 HLOs anyway. But if you don't mark as complete when you move to a new placement, it will keep accumulating and then you end up having 50 PDP items. Okay, I hope that's been helpful. I'll stop here, and in my next video, I'm going to show you how to create case logs, activities, how to create your assessment forms, or your workplace-based assessment forms. Okay, thank you for joining me. See you later. Bye.